and Morty comic issue 5. I don't like the name of this story. We start out with some shadowy figure running out of a cabin at night, much like the previous story's cabin, and it turns out to be Morty running through the woods. He gasps at being greeted by someone who knows his name, and of course it's Rick, who's wearing a white shirt, and he teases him about trying to sneak out of his bunk, apparently to meet girls. Morty asks what he's doing at his summer camp, with his dialogue lampshading how we never hear about the camp in the show, but I don't think that was necessary. Then Rick reveals that he's his new camp counselor. How is he qualified for that? I don't think just anybody can get that job, so he must have built a device to brainwash someone or threaten them to agree. Is he really that desperate to spend most of his time with his beloved grandson? Then why did he take so long to do this if, from what Morty's saying, he went to summer camp at least 1 year before when Rick was in his life? How did he stand waiting through all of summer without having Morty to help him on his adventures until now? Did he go to his camp to take him on his adventures? It was confusing starting the story out with Morty at a cabin because he was already at a wooden cabin last story, but it's not the same one. It's kind of amusing, if annoying padding also, that the comic tries to have a song in it. But because it's just a comic book, it can only settle for putting the lyrics at the top of each panel, which just shows us typical stuff that happens at camp, I assume. I've never been to a camp. Wouldn't the kids there miss their parents? Morty then asks where the music is coming from, so he's actually hearing this and he's told not to change the subject. So is he the only one who can hear it for some reason, or not? Rick and Morty is no stranger to meta humor, though it does better than Sonic just like everything else, so this could just be a fourth wall breaking joke. But it's also a pretty weird sci-fi series where anything can happen, so there might be an explanation. What makes this suspicious is that it's not like we can see a boombox blasting the music of Morty or anything. In fact, Morty says that sounds like the song was coming from inside his head. And yet he's freaked out about it instead of calm and making it play in his head on purpose, or remembering it. Anyways, a girl accuses him of having another lame excuse, and Morty tells him what happened to him last night, and for some reason she just accuses him of cheating on him with a bunk 12 tramp. How insecure is she to the point of parody that she assumes a dweeb like Morty would be cheating on her when he'd be lucky to even have her? Especially confusing that she calls him Love Him and Leave Him Morty Smith. Where'd that come from? The only evidence there is for this interpretation is that when he had his save button in the show, even though he always had a crush on a girl named Jessica, he didn't hesitate to start dating a different girl when she let him. And the relationship lasted a long time. And he didn't think about Jessica when he was with Anne either. But that's not the same thing as cheating. She runs off, and Rick kind of expresses sympathy for him, and Morty snaps at him. Rick tells him to calm down, and he tells him that every girl at Camperson wants to be with him, talking as if that's a given because he's Morty Smith, even though in the show he has an annoying voice. Morty says that this is a little confusing, so this might be even more foreshadowing to this camp being weird, along with the weird name of the camp itself, where it sounds like it was named by a lazy drunk Rick. But Morty was never questioning that the camp was renamed or anything when he came there. Like, it's not like at the very start of the story he was asking why the camp he was always familiar with was called that all of a sudden. So, I guess it's not a clue when the camp was always called that. Rick generously makes him a deal that if he can't find him a date for tomorrow night's big dance, he'll leave the camp for the rest of the summer, as we apparently see Bird Person right next to Rick, who's also apparently at the camp. Another thing that's suspicious, I guess it's normal for teen summer camps to have big dances, then, even though it seems unnecessary. A guy then says to Morty that's tough luck he struck out with a girl last night, and then Morty panics and asks Rick where he is. Well, the dialogue of Morty saying you've got a deal is repeated from the previous panel coming from something in the panel. I love the engaging mystery going on. Someone asks Morty if he's okay, Morty asks if he heard that, and despite him not saying much that explains what he meant afterwards, the person tells him not to let the counselors hear him saying that stuff, or else he'll end up in the shack with the bad campers who don't like summertime fun hijinks. Morty awkwardly lies that he likes them, as I wonder if this camp Rick took over is Rick's well-intentioned plan to get Morty to live life the way he would at his age, instead of being cautious and missing out on fun. The camper tells Morty that there's a bikini ice cream contest at the lake, walking out of the cabin. And we see Morty's dialogue repeated coming from a basket. Huh? He approaches Rick, who's standing on a pillar telling kids to knock off the horseplay because a kid hit someone with a green tube. But why would he care? He's Rick. Morty's freaked out, and Rick doesn't care and asks why they sell these big foam pool noodles, because they'll inevitably be used against other kids. Good point. I thought that was what they're for. What else are they for? Rick ignores him and reaffirms that he's serious about water safety. I guess because he doesn't want to get in trouble if anything happens to the kids, but why would Rick care? Especially in a suspicious camp like this where all the girls seem fake because they're all into Morty. So the kids might not even be real. Morty takes off and Rick says that it's not a mystery and he's probably just in a coma. And he says that while smiling. Why did he say probably if he knew the answer? Morty's offended at the idea that he's in a coma and is in denial, ranting about it even at dusk later. And it turns out Lisa from earlier is right at his cabin, and she says that their fight is her fault for trying to contain him. She kisses him, and then all of a sudden we see that there's a dialogue bubble connected to what's now a brown, basket or something. Now that's what Morty's kissing. Oh, she really did turn into a basket. It's not like Morty's mind is being manipulated. He drops it and panics as he keeps hearing her voice. Maybe it's actually Rick's voice talking through a voice modulator? So, is he in a simulation that glitched out for no reason? Or did he kiss an alien that shapeshifted by accident somehow? He runs away screaming that none of this is real and wants to wake up. He gets hit by something thrown at him and is woken up by Scary Terry, an alien parodying Freddy Krueger. And just like in the show, he's oddly sympathetic as he tells him to calm down and says they need to listen to him because they're running out of time, and the fate of the Dreamverse hangs into balance. They're in the shack, the one place where their psychic powers can't reach them, but it won't hold forever. What a confusing story. He explains that there's a dimension out there where scientists somehow figured out how to turn dreams into energy. Dreams are just brainwaves, so at that point, couldn't they harness any brainwaves for energy? And somehow dreams can be depleted from that. I guess because the energy was taken away, and wasn't immediately replenished as the dream continued for some reason. So, somehow, instead of the only result from that being that the person wouldn't have a dream because the dream got sucked away, or continued dreaming, instead it turns out they've stolen so many dreams that the Dreamverse itself has begun to crack and decay. How could there be a Dreamverse? I think I'd find that silly at nights too. It just sounds convoluted. Scary Terry says that he's lured them into Morty's dimension with Morty's dream. A dream he knew they couldn't resist. So are those scientists alternate versions of Rick then? Like the Council of Ricks? Because otherwise, how does he know that it had to be Morty's dream if he doesn't know that from knowing Rick's know Morty's? That's the only way that Morty would be special to those scientists. He says he needs Morty's help, and the campers out there are actually dream-stealing aliens in disguise. He tells them that he needs to wear his hat, which is magically the source of his scary powers. But he doesn't have any powers. He's just got, like, gloves with sharp things taped to them. He tells them Morty needs to defeat all of the aliens, and it's apparently what he was born to do. Unfortunately, the comic will insist on giving these supposed aliens the same color blood as humans anyways. Since it's obvious what happens next, I'll just skip ahead to when he's done defeating the aliens. Rick then goes up to what he calls Scary Morty in a lightning storm, and asks what he is. And Morty says he doesn't believe this really is Rick, and calls him out on telling him he was in a coma and trying to trick him. I just typed Rickham by mistake. It's funny how you can't spell trick without Rick. Rick says that that was obviously a joke. That does explain why he said, or something, and probably. So is this another instance of Rick's bad social skills backfiring on him? Rick asks how the coma explanation makes any less sense than this nonsense, saying that Morty looks like bad fan art, even though he looks fine. If he looks bad, then so does Scary Terry. And that this whole thing indeed is stupid. He asks Morty if he'll feel cheated if this turns out to be a coma thing, and gouts him to kill him out of exasperation, with life I guess, somehow guessing that he thinks Morty's trying to save the Dreamverse. Morty decides to walk away from him instead, Naturally, since Rick is his grandfather as opposed to a bunch of strangers. And then Morty returns to reality and calls the real Rick Scary Terry as he wakes up. So apparently all the plot holes in the story are explained away as it all being just a dream. Rick amusingly wonders if he accidentally blinded him. It's amusing because rather than asking that rhetorically, he actually thinks that because he's that irresponsible for an old man. Rick reveals that Morty was in a coma, and Morty wakes up in a bed that was conveniently in the garage. That was nice of Rick. Morty begs Rick to put him to sleep again so he can save the Dreamverse, and we see damaged buildings in the Dreamverse as the story ends. So because it was all just a dream, all of that was just a waste of time. While it was intriguing seeing the mystery go on with a camp that's too good to be true for Morty, there wasn't anything hooked up to Morty's head when he woke up, so it's not like all of the dream was intentionally made by Rick to try to give him a nice camping experience either. So everything that doesn't make sense is literally explained away as him just having a dream. Although apparently he really did need to save the Dreamverse. But that's weird because he should have defeated all of the dream-stealing aliens. Like, he did exactly what Scary Terry told him to do, but I guess he was supposed to kill Rick there, and he didn't. Then he should have supervised him. That part was easily my least favorite part of the story. It makes it look bad to me. So I'm glad the gore is easily skippable without being confused about the plot. I don't understand why it had to be Morty in particular doing that, since we aren't told that the scientists stealing dreams were Rick's. What was the point of the camp? It didn't do much to throw Morty a bone with the girls because he just briefly got to kiss a jealous girl who was mad at him earlier, what a catch, before she inexplicably turned into a basket. I assumed the camp was a simulation made by Rick, but the coma thing does make more sense, so I'm glad the writer went with that, because it's a more simple and easy to understand explanation. I'm guessing he was in a coma thanks to Rick screwing up. And he was in the coma for a small enough time that explains why he was in the garage in an actual hospital, as he wasn't out long enough to be discovered by his parents to be in the coma. Still, I wish we learned how he was put in the coma. It seems pretty important to explain why the entire story happened.